We are live, and welcome to Mem Tips and Tricks. Maurice, we have you here in the studio. Nice to
Yes,
see you.
nice to be with you, Matthias.
So, Maurice, I have seen a lot of your contributions out there, and I'm amazed of your quality. Wow, you are very good at developing tools.
I wouldn't go that far, but I try. I try.
You tried. Do you have any idea of how many are using your modern driver management?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's because we used to have it on TechNet, and I remember the old figures there. They were about 75,000 ish or something like that. And GitHub now has been where it's been for maybe about the past year or so. So I'd hazard a guess 100,000 maybe or something like that downloads, maybe more.
100,000. So you say you don't make awesome tools. You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Well,
do.
I made something that saved people time. Maybe I should have charged for it and I should have retired, but hey, that horse is bolted.
Hey, that's this amazing tool, and I've been using that for many of my customers. And thank you very much for making this tool and save a lot of hours for firstly for the customer and for consultants like me. So thank you, Maurice, and Nikolai was on it as well.
Nikolai, yes, of course, he's
Yeah,
part of the overall solution.
yeah.
So when we started talking together, we kind of Nikolai had an idea for the back end kind of side, and then I had the front end, and we just kind of put them together and made them work. So and then of course over time, even the product, we don't need the web service anymore, so we just use the admin API, and then we just rely on PowerShell scripts, and it has made it a lot easier for a lot of customers and
Mm,
companies around the world for sure. But it's one of those kind of beasts that I suppose over the past 2 years in particular, it's been a bit of a struggle to keep everything going.
mm.
And I do have to put in a few script updates. I know people are going to be going, "Oh yeah, it's got Windows 11 support yet." And okay, yeah, I know, and it won't be today because it's your fault today. I had this booked in, and then you were like,
Yeah.
"We have to meet." So
I'm very sorry, but I think people are going to like this interview because we want to know who Maurice is, and we have a agenda today to look at update compliance and stuff in that engine.
yes, you vaguely made me aware of some of that. Although some of these questions I'm a little fearful of. So let's uh, let's see where this goes.
Let's see where it goes, and thank you, Maurice. So let's go a little deeper into the personal stuff. So, how old are you, and where do you live?
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I have to remember my own age for a start. So I'm over the hill now. I'm 41 years old. Um, but I live in Ireland. I live in a place right bang in the middle of it called Moat, which is, if you take the map of Ireland, it's basically dead center.
Hmm.
And yeah, I am a family man. I've got 3 kids and a wife and 3 cats.
Three
Um,
cats.
and 3 cats as well. Yes. And that's us, and that's kind of we've been in this bubble now for the past 2 years, staring at the four walls. So we're hoping maybe this year we get a holiday and things like that, and a bit more
Hmm.
normality.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not always from Ireland. I was originally born in the UK,
Okay.
but I'm Irish. I hold an Irish passport, and yeah, it's I've been living in Ireland since 1992.
All right.
So
So most of your life.
most of my life, yes.
Yeah, adult life at least.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wow. And wife and 3 kids, and you're still together here during the pandemic.
Yes, so far so good. Which is something to say actually, because I think this has been a trying time for everyone.
Mm,
And then struggling trying to work from home. I'm lucky enough. I've got a nice enough setup. And my wife doesn't. She's like at the kitchen table with a laptop, one of my old ones, and connected into work. And yeah, it can be struggle. Everyone's had the same kind of problem.
mm,
And who knows where we go, in years to come. I think houses they should be just built with a home office now. It's
Yeah.
like the fifth bedroom or whatever.
Mm.
Um, but yeah. So far we're not killing
Mm.
each other. That's good.
So that's really good because I mean many couldn't stand this. I mean their marriage is like it's good when they are from each other and work and then they come home and then the family goes on and stuff like that. So in Denmark we have like 50% of marriages that breaks. So that's a high number. Um, I'm married as well, have 3 kids, and we're still together. So yeah, um, it it um, it takes sacrifices, and of course, when you go 24/7 uh, together, you need to have some sort of you need to understand each other, and you need to talk together and take some time out, go out, walk for yourself, and make your thoughts breathe and get air right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's important to do that.
Mm.
I mean, I think today we're kind of in a bit of a better place. I don't know about Denmark, but Ireland's a little bit better. We have a bit more freedom. Obviously, during that initial lockdown period, it was terrible. Everyone stay inside and all that. But at least we can go for a day trip somewhere and maybe get a meal and stuff like that. So all those kind of things that you took for granted at the start, it's like,
Mm.
hey, this is nice to have now.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of the same in Denmark. If you have the COVID passport, you're actually free to go. But once you're positive, of course you should isolate yourself and the family. But going over the border to, for example, Sweden or Norway, you would need some extra, especially to Sweden. You should have a
mhm.
negative um, test, and in Norway it's just the Corona passport. So going skiing, I would like to do that, but yeah, that's uh, that's long ago that we did that. But hopefully we go ski here in week 8. So now we have the COVID now here in the family. So yeah, that's hopefully going to help us have a negative test for Sweden when going through Sweden to Norway. So I really look forward to travel again.
Yes, I think we all do.
Hmm.
I really hope to get away somewhere warm and sunny because Ireland isn't renowned for its sunny climate. I mean, it's a beautiful country, and when the sun comes out, it is beautiful. Um, but I do like to have the guarantee of flying a few hours south and just having heat for a week or two.
Yeah,
So
agree. Let's say that COVID is gone when we hit April.
bit optimistic, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Close down the television, then it's gone.
Finish the final box set that you've just started watching, then you're done.
Exactly, exactly. So, Maurice, where are you currently working?
Yes, so I work for a company called Cloudway. So you might have heard of them. Some other really talented individuals. I think you were interviewing one such person yesterday,
Yes.
Jan Kettle, and
Yeah,
you've interviewed Ben Whitmore as well.
I did.
And we have quite a few others. Sandy Zhang would be someone else you'll also be familiar with.
Hmm.
And I've been there now for just coming up on 3 years.
Wow.
So COVID and working from home hasn't really affected me because I'm still sitting here in my desk.
Mm.
But yeah, having a great time. And then the company's really kind of grown because I think when I joined, I was employee number 4.
Okay.
And I think there are 10 employees today. So it doesn't sound like a lot. But we've all uh, kind of naturally grown out that we've expanded into both sides of the company because on one side we kind of have apps and services, and then the other we have enterprise mobility, and basically it's kind of expanded out on both sides, and it's been really good to get great people. I mean, Sandy, we've been myself and Jan were friends with Sandy for many years, and it was really great to get her on board. And then Ben, of course, Ben has been one of these people that has just kind of exploded on the scene in the past few years.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was great to get him on board. And you know, I think we have a good team now. And touch wood, at the moment, everyone in Cloudway is an MVP. So it's not
Yeah,
to say it's a
that's
given, of course, but it's nice to have that at the moment.
yeah, and I mean MVP is a sign of that you really care about sharing and you really care about um, the skills you have yourself, and you do a lot of work that is not paid for and put it into public so others can actually use it, and there you have the tool, for example, that have more than 100,000 downloads, and that's a contribution of a bigger yeah, and so MVP has definitely some power in that word. So it must be nice to work with such skilled persons in the company.
Oh yeah.
When did you become MVP?
I think a few months actually after Jan. So that was back in 2017.
Hmm.
I think it was actually just coming on March time, I think, in around there. So obviously, or was it even July? I can't remember. Yeah, it was 2017 anyway. And yeah, it was one of those things that you kind of always like when you get into the community scene and start helping people. It's you see people up there, right? Like you read books by people, you know, Johan Mark, for instance, Michael Neustrom. When I started off doing MDT and Config Manager, you read those books and you know these people, and
Hmm.
you know, Kent Ogerland and all these other famous faces that you know out there in the community. And sometimes you ask them a question, sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't respond. And if they do respond, you're like, oh, you know. And I just started doing bits and bobs, and it was mainly for myself, to be honest with you. You know, you set up a blog, and the aim of the blog shouldn't be that, okay, I want to get this. It's like, okay, I start off, I want to remember what I did 6 months ago, because we've
Hmm.
all been in a situation where we did something, we made a fix or whatever. Then we go off and we deal something else. We come back and it's like, oh, what did I do back then? And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So just, you know, starting putting up little tools, blogs and stuff like that. And then together with a couple of friends of mine, so Terence Beggs, initially we started off with it was the Deploy Everything blog, and it was kind of short lived, but there was a reason for that. So we kind of started the blog, and then we became good friends with Nikolai Anderson, and we decided we'd merge things together. Um, and he had a SC config manager at the time, and we kind of put it all together then. And then with the Microsoft name change, eventually it's come into what it is today, which is the MS Endpoint Manager blog. But as part of that kind of um, learning curve and getting noticed by people, yeah, I mean, I was nominated first of all, and then to get through that, it was actually a surprise. And I probably told a story before to people, but basically, so when the MVP emails came out, they come out on the first of the month, and I was at work and I was congratulating people online and stuff like that. You know, people that I got them, and I was just having a really busy day, and I went home and I looked at my phone about 10 o'clock at night or something like that, and I went into my email, and I've, you know, like everyone, we've got a few email accounts. There's generally one that we start off that shouldn't be a spam account, and then a few years in, it's a spam account. um, and I'm scrolling down through, and then I see an email, and it looks the same as the one that was basically being tweeted by everyone that morning. And it's like, hold on. So, so I rushed upstairs, and I woke up my wife, who was in bed at the time, and it probably meant more to me than it did to her. But she was happy that I was happy. Um, and I remember texting my boss at the time saying, "Yeah, yeah, this is gonna have to be 3 additional letters on my auto signature. And it really was spectacular because the one thing that came out at the time was when I had joined the company I was working with. I had an excellent manager there, David Hickey. I'll give him a shout out if he watches this. But and one of the things he talked in the interview process was that, we'll support you if you want to do any community stuff, or you have aspirations becoming an MVP. And I will be perfectly straight. Right back in 2010 or 2010, I didn't know what an MVP was. Okay, didn't really come up on my radar much. Read a lot of books and stuff like that, but yeah, it didn't. These mostly Microsoft books, and and then it kind of came around full circles. Like, okay, well, this must have happened for a reason somehow.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's been great. It's a great program to be part of. Um, you know, especially I suppose when we did have travel and we were able to go to Redmond. And that first time going there and actually meeting the people, meeting like David James and so on. Again, these are people that you're kind of in awe in the community and I know what they can do um, and being able to talk and drive through the product, even just to give a bug fix, so that if in the technical preview you see something and then by the time it gets released, it's not there anymore. I mean, it's amazing.
Mm.
And I know a lot today, Microsoft are kind of gravitating and bringing more customers into the scenario, which is also a good thing, through like the customer connection program, so that they're getting more feedback from their actual end users and their power admins, if you want, from large companies and so on. But it's good to have both sides of that because I think as MVPs, we can be sometimes quite frank and honest about our opinions on some things, whether they're shared publicly or not. Some people are more public than others. But if we feel that we have that channel with Microsoft to be able to do that, then it's only a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
and you of course, I mean, you're new to the stage as well in this
Oh
area.
yes, I'm very new, and I'm very grateful to be on that team. Um, yeah, for one who never thought that I would be MVP, it was like a surprise. I had like 3 people who nominated me. One can only do that, but uh, there was 3 reaching out, and I was like, "Wow, what do you mean? I'm nobody. I'm not doing any tools or stuff, cool tools like that." I mean, I read the docs and I maybe get the news before many others because I read in GitHub. I'm very bored. I'm a very bored a man. Sorry, not people. Behind the scene, reading docs. I mean, just to get what is the latest supported configuration in some cloud product. But eventually, uh, yeah, I was awarded because I think I blogged a lot and they like the positivity maybe I bring to the community, and I'm a very positive person, even though we know that there's stuff not working or we get bugs or January patch fails and stuff. Yeah, that's just something we have to deal with and work with. So that's we know Microsoft, right? So yeah, it's nice. It's a nice feeling to get that MVP. I fully understand why you woke up your wife to tell you you've been an MVP. I was like going to scout um, evening events where I saw that email and I was like, I can't wait to come home and blog this and put it on LinkedIn and stuff. And it's overwhelming with people who just want to congratulate you on that achievement, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, wow, the community is wild.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, first of all, huge congratulations and well deserved, of course, right, for you.
Thank you, Maurice.
Um, but the community is a kind of strange thing, right? Because most of the stuff that we do actually happens on Twitter, right? Now, I know when
Mm.
my wife would say, Twitter is for keyboard warriors and people that hate. And yeah, I mean, if you want to go off into different subjects, yes, sometimes it can be that. But in our area, oddly enough, it's gold for all this kind of nuggets of information, and sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming as well. You're scrolling down your timeline, you're seeing this really good stuff coming out from people all the time, and it can be really hard to keep track of. Um, but I think you kind of have to be there, at least monitoring to find those little nuggets, because as good as your Googling skills are, sometimes you might miss something there, you know.
Mm.
So, but yeah, I mean, we're all proud to be part of this program, and I think we all long for that day where we all get back out to Redmond and we take a picture together and uh, we sit down the way it should be done.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, actually, I'm getting a call from Microsoft support. I can see I have a support case going on with some compliance policies not working properly. Yeah, now it wasn't that we were going to talk about. So, Maurice, we should get going on today's topic. Um, it's um, it's a cloud world today. We are sitting at home. Everyone that is not in a grocery store or something that needs physical appearance are at home. And that makes companies think out of the box. What can we do to achieve what we did when we sat at the office on our network? We want to patch our devices. We want to be able to reach out to the device on the internet now. And many are looking for the automation on Windows patches called Windows Update for Business. And we are traditionally used BSOS in config man, and we had total control of what binaries we took down in our service and what we deployed, and we could deploy it to one or two or three devices and servers, etc. We could really control it to bits and bytes. But when we move to Windows Update for Business, we leave a little bit of control. You could say, at least you don't have the active approval anymore, right? So of course, you have the ring principle. You can deploy to 1 or 10 devices the first ring and then have a delay. So that's nice, and you can have almost all the control you like. But what about mm, the managers that say, "Hey, Maurice, I would like a report. How much compliance do we have today?"
Yeah, that's a struggle. I mean, look, you know, config manager and WSUS in the background, we've had them for many years. Like you said, we always had really granular control. And one of the things, if we were doing this right, is we had things like automatic deployment rules, right? And then we can monitor, the success rate of the KBs contained within those packages over time, and we can generate a report. Yes, we had the likes of SQL Server reporting services, which was never very fancy. The reports out of it were kind of from the 90s, if you like, but they served their purpose. And if you got fancy and you're able to do SQL, you could do something at Power BI again and generate those kind of more impressive GUI type driven reports, and maybe even give people access to them so they could drill through the report themselves. So obviously, when the pandemic kicked in, one things that which I'm sure you saw a lot about the start was companies who traditionally would say, no, we have to do all the patching through like some config manager. It happens on premise or it happens over a VPN, right? All of a sudden, this thing that we were talking to them about, which was cloud management gateway for a while, then they were like, okay, no, we need that now, okay, because we need to get the patches out and we need to ensure that devices can check in to see which patches they are. Ultimately, those machines that are off net then could go off to Microsoft and pull them down, or if the third party updates, they can get them from CMG. And we spent a lot of time getting over that. Okay. And again, that was like a phase one, if you, I think, to where we are today, because the advancements that have been made in the endpoint manager admin center slash Intune with the reporting and or sorry, not with reporting, but with the ability to deploy updates through Windows Update for Business
Mm.
and the control over the ring. In some respects, if you want tight granular control over, I want this KB to go out this time and so on, that's not what it's going to give you. But if you want to say, and this is what one of the great success stories that we hear back from customers that move down, they move the workload out to Intune for patching, for instance, is it actually puts more control back in the hands of the user. So we set up a ring, and it says that we have to have all the quality updates within, say, 7 days of they're being released, and then we give them a grace period. And we can say schedule a restart at like maintenance time or after hours, and then all of a sudden the user's getting a toast notification, and it's telling them there's updates to be applied. Do you want to do this now? Do you want to do it later? Okay, and that in itself has given companies great buy-in to that, because previously, when you did an update on the machine, there was a tendency to take a kind of a brute force type thing. You got patched, your machine's rebooted, end of story. And the trouble is that 24/7 environments and people are working odd hours, and you're always trying to find that, that maintenance window or that, non-business hour where someone can reboot and they don't have a spreadsheet open or they're not presenting or not in Teams call. And I think that's the one success story that we hear constantly coming back about moving it to Intune. And even from an administration point of view, like the way you started off this conversation saying, well, what about the people that want to know reporting on this? Yes, there are some reports they can get in Intune, in the Endpoint Manager portal. We might run through actually a couple of these and then just compare and contrast. But basically, we're going to see the latest, the feature version, and we're going to see the quality build. Are we going to see all of the KBs that are installed on the device? No, we're not going to get down to that level of granularity. Are we going to see that with some third party, even if we integrate that? No, we're not seeing that again. But what is the good things that we get? So let's just say that we create a ring and there's an issue. Okay, it's not to say that Microsoft ever released any patches with problems, but let's just summarize and say that maybe a patch got released and maybe it broke VPNs or something like that. And you might want to pause that. So we could go into the ring and we can just click on pause, quality updates. And that's it. All the other machines that haven't already got that will then stop installing those KBs. And of course, if we want to roll it back, we can also have the option. And that again gives quite a good way of doing things, because these machines, all they need is an internet connection. They don't need to get back somehow, either by CMG or VPN. And it's not to put those avenues down. It's just saying that it's from the simplicity point of view, everyone really probably has an internet connection, unless you're on a nuclear submarine somewhere, or in a bunker. But you've got an internet connection, and therefore it should be able to update. And that they keep adding additional features. The first one that came in then was the ability to control the feature update. Okay, so that even if we say we push out the ring, we're going to have to set the feature update for deferral to 0 days. Most people look at that initially and they go, oh, hold on. I don't want 21H2 appearing on my machine instantly after it's released. But if you've got your feature update policy in place, then you can say, well, no, I'm going to keep you at 21H2 until I decide. Again, another nice control strategy. And then, of course, we've got the expedited updates then as well with quality. So if there is like a 0 day something or out of band update that comes out and Microsoft release, that we then have the option to say, I want all these machines to have it in 0, 1 or 2 days or whatever the case may be. So a lot of good stuff has come out that way. And even from admins who, constantly kind of prune to monitor the ADRs and stuff like that, they like that kind of almost hands-off approach that machines get updates, and they get driver updates. They actually get firmware updates today as well, through OEMs. So that has really taken away some of the headache that they used to have. But then, the reporting. I mean, reporting. it could be better. And look, I don't want to play it down because Microsoft have invested hugely in the product, and you know we've all struggled over the past 2 years. I know that their focus was actually on reporting, and to some extent, proactive remediations has actually been something that has kind of filled the gap for some people because they can generate certain things out of that. But if we were to start looking at the endpoint manager portal, so what I might actually do is just share my screen. Now, obviously, I work for quite a small company, so it's not going to give you a huge amount of data, but the kind of stuff that we're able to see, of course, is if we go into Windows updates, and of course, we're going to see a lot of stuff in preview at the moment. Don't be scared about the stuff in preview. I often hear people saying, "Oh, I don't want to go near it just in case they remove it." No. But here, I mean, we could be like the poster child for Microsoft because we are basically all Windows 11, right? So we've moved lock, stock, and barrel. But point is, you can go into this Windows 10 feature report, and you can go in, you can see stuff like, is the feature report being advertised to the device? Does it have a safe block in place? Things like that. You really want to see, well, why are my machines upgrading or not upgrading, or are they in the middle of upgrading, where they've installed but they need a restart and so on. And of course, we can go in, we can look at the expedited update report, which kind of gives us the same on those KBs that we just want to fire out there immediately. Outside of that, though, we're beginning to start to look at maybe just the devices we're going to monitor, and we can use some of the elements in here, or we can just go into the device lists themselves, and then we can pull up which version of the OS they're on. Okay, and we can extract it out and we can manipulate it in Excel or put it to Power BI or something along those lines again. But it's very kind of table based. Okay, and it doesn't tell you about the things that are going on in the background. So for you to get up to a certain quality update, which KBs did I get installed? And this is something that I think Intune it does need more of. I mean, in this reporting section, yeah, we need more in here. And in fact, my own personal opinion, the way this has grown out, and you have to think about this continued expansion over time, is that when it started, we had the monitoring section, okay, where we have all these different reports. But these are reports at the end of the day. So we have a report section here. So why aren't the reports in the reports?
Yeah.
But that's only a UI thing. I think ultimately all reporting should be in a reporting blade, if you like. And maybe even stuff like proactive remediations shouldn't be in reporting blade. You can use it for reporting, and if I went into here, and there are nice reports in here, such as, startup performance and so on. But proactive remediations is that one that maybe doesn't fit in reports. Maybe it needs its own place to go. But then going back to the thing of, well, Windows devices, how do I actually look at these and see which KBs are getting installed and so on? And then I'm going to be looking kind of at maybe moving away from your comfort zone a little bit. But if you move away just a small bit and do a small bit of learning, you can really do powerful things. So we're going to be looking at stuff like update compliance. Okay, so update compliance is just something that you can get from the Azure Marketplace. It's a solution. So if we go into solutions, we go into WAS updating. It gives us a commercial ID. Now, I'm not going to show you the commercial ID here for obvious reasons. You can blur it. Yeah. But it gives you a commercial ID. And the thing is that then you can basically tag your telemetry traffic that's going to Microsoft with this, so you can do reporting on it. Because Windows devices, Windows 10 devices in particular, and newer, are very chatty at what is going on in the background to Microsoft. And even at the basic telemetry level. And of course, Microsoft uses that telemetry information to detect things like, if there's a problem with an application crashing on X build of Windows or a driver and so on. So it is very, very beneficial that we continue to send that information. But aside from the kind of, maybe some people might be a little bit paranoid about all that information going out. But aside from that, well, if we can get that information back in, what can we do with it? So once we've got that set up, 72 hours later, we will have data in here, okay, and update compliance. And then afterwards, I think it's every 25 hours then afterwards. And initially, it started off with, we had these logs down here, the Windows Update as a Service logs. And okay, if we just take a look at deployment status, for instance, and we say over the last 48 hours, we should get some information back about our machines. Okay, what kind of updates are going out? Is it quality update? Is it security? Is it critical? We can expand this out, okay, and we can look at the revision number, what target build it was going to, the original build, and so on. And then all of a sudden, we start to see this. So we start seeing now the KBs. There's one thing that I suppose managers and CIOs and stuff like that care about, because if there's a critical vulnerability exploit that's put out there, there's going to be a KB that fixes it. So tell me about, have I fixed everything for Print Nightmare, for instance? And you get your list of your KBs, and then you can do a query. So then we could do something like, we could just do a quick filter here where we could say where the release contains this. If we run that again, okay, well then we get a slightly shorter list of machines, and then we could do something like, we could summarize it, and we could say argmax time generated star by maybe the computer name. Okay, and then we're getting the latest details. And
That's
again,
nice.
yeah, I mean, it's nice, but at the moment, it's still quite text-based. It still looks very similar to what we had when we looked at the Endpoint Manager portal in some respects. So over time, if we start looking at these different logs, okay, the deployment status is one, but we have other ones where we can see, like, okay, Windows Update delivery optimization status as well. This is actually vital, because that model of moving everyone out to Intune, one of the things that you have to consider is, when we had ADRs and when we had Config Manager and CMG and everything like that, we had places where the updates were stored. Okay, initially, okay, we have branch cache, we have peer cache and stuff like that. But we had things called distribution points, of course. They have been the mainstay for many, many years. So your ADRs would create a deployment package that gets pushed down, contains all the updates. Client A gets the updates, and maybe client A starts sharing client B and C, and client D goes to the DP and stuff like that, right? But the point is, it's to keep down bandwidth. So delivery optimization, of course, then is that in a cloud way. No, that's not to say it's the cloud way that I work for, but it's done in a more modern way through the cloud.
Yeah.
And then being able to look at, okay, well, tell me what's in there. So let's go and have a look here, and let's see for the last 48 hours. And we can see, tell me about the sources of those KBs that were downloaded, and how much data did you consume? How many peers did you get that information from, and so on. And yet you can get this from the delivery optimization statistics in PowerShell on the machines. But here we're actually getting consolidated views for all of our environment. And we had a lot of challenges kind of thrown at us from customers, where they would say, look, we love the idea of this thing, but the reporting isn't fantastic. Is there anything we can actually buy off the shelf? Okay, a lot of people went with that. And if they were co-managed, there was people like EnhanceSoft and stuff like that had additional functionality for maybe what Config Manager, and they went off and purchased those, and they're great reports, and there's also a lot of nice community reports, even some of the Power BI stuff, and even I remember Jordan Benzing had the Windows Update dashboard, so some fantastic stuff that you can get. A lot of them are kind of going, is there a Microsoft way of doing this? And yes, there is. And you know what we've been doing here, where we're just putting in these couple of lines, and this is obviously only very basic stuff. This is custom query language. Okay, now personally, when I was doing IT in college, I mean, I hated databases, anything to do with them and stuff like that, right? So, but Custo, I'm okay with. It's like I like to think of it as like SQLite, if you like. Okay, you don't need as much. The constructs are kind of similar, and if you're familiar with Config Manager, you've probably seen this before because if you've looked to CM Pivot, it's the same language. Okay, although it's massively expanded here. So when we started looking at this, we were okay. Well, we can get the information, and I remember sitting down and Jan Kettle said, "Have you played around with workbooks at all?" I said, No, no." And then it kind of dawned on me where we sat down for a day, and I think first of all, Jan had written a version of like a Windows that kind of update dashboard, okay, that we could maybe give to a customer or do community. And then Sandy Zhang joined, and Sandy was really beginning to learning KQL as well and workbooks. And then she added some elements. And then I was kind of getting up in this going, oh, actually, this is what the cool people in the company are doing. I should be here too. And I started learning it, and I thought, yeah, okay, this is good. So then we started building out workbooks, and we kind of like I've got one here. So we've got a few different ones. A lot of these are in development. All right. So and you know the way it's like the what they say about the builder's house. Yeah, the builder builds a better house for the house he doesn't live in. Um, so a lot of this stuff is kind of like, yeah, we need a plaster here and stuff like that. But this one I know is kind of is up to date. Um, and we start to build out something like this, which gives clients and gives admins a much more kind of acceptable overview, and in some respects kind of similar to some of the stuff that they might have seen in the config manager portal, you know, where it's telling you about you're patching over time or giving you donuts just to say, you know, this percentage of devices are up to date. And we've just kind of been expanding it and expanding it ever since. Now, you know, there are some elements in here that we actually need to speak with people in Microsoft about, just to get some clarification on some of the stuff that we maybe see sometimes that we think is a little bit quirky. But the idea is with something like this dashboard is, okay, at the top, we're telling the admin or the CIO, whoever wants to look at it, okay, what this is about, where to look at the documentation if they really want to, okay, and then on the right-hand side, when the logs were last updated. And that's kind of important as well, because I've seen it occur from time to time where maybe one set of logs gets updated and another doesn't for a couple of days, and things just look a little bit out of kilter. But that's the kind of that's a rarity. So as we can see here, they've all updated. The logs do update at different times, and that's kind of standard. But we can start to do stuff like this. And you know, if I just edit this, okay, let's click on edit here, do something like that. Okay, look, I mean that's 3 lines to generate a timeline telling me, you know, is my machine on the latest quality update? Okay, that's all it took. So we're just doing things like visualizations. So we've taken what we've learned with KQL, and then instead of doing where we could have done a pipe to render and then maybe a time chart and stuff and done it in the log itself, if we do it in a workbook, it's something that we can save and then we can actually give a link to, and actually, if you're smart enough then and you know, using a tool where you can capture it scrolling, you can actually generate a report out of it into a PDF. Yes, I would actually really love functionality to be able to, you know, click on the button here and say, you know, print as PDF and have it all kind of come together nicely. And maybe the people that, you know, do Azure workbooks or development, because it is kind of separate to enterprise mobility and the people that we would usually speak to. But maybe if they did more reporting elements in here, it'd be really funky. But we can do small stuff like this, where we say the time range is, or we might have a slider where we select the time range, and or we'd have another field down here where we could select that. And of course, we have all these different chart settings where we can highlight stuff, right? So in this one, it's just a timeline, so it doesn't have a lot of niceties in there. But if we have a look at this one, this one's a little bit more complex, where we're looking at successful patches over previous 30 days. So tell us about all of the Windows security updates. So we're looking for anything that's installed and the target KB is not empty. Is a quality update and security update. And of course, it's for Windows. And we have to say that because some of the logs will contain stuff. I mean, this is the UC client log, so it'll contain Windows. It's not going to contain Android and iOS. And we're doing a distinct reference ID, and then we're doing a join. So we're actually joining two different tables, okay? And then we're doing a summarized count with the KB number. So over time, we get to see that, KB 582.15 over time becomes more and more compliant. And then over here, we might see that it's been superseded, stuff like that. And there is a little bit of I suppose a bit of a problem sometimes when we're trying to generate some reports that customers would like to see. So one of them might be, tell me about all the machines that have at least the last 2 CUs on them. Okay, and that can be a little bit tricky because if, for instance, you have a CU from last month and then all of a sudden you get a feature update, well, then the CU that maybe was for the previous build, you won't have anymore. And it's trying to decipher that for the client as well. It can be a little bit tricky. So they have to look at multiple different things in here. But the thing is that they get all the information. So, again, small environment. Tell me about the machines that are pending a reboot. It's one of the biggest problems that we have with patching is getting the machines to reboot. It always has been. Am I patched? Yes. No, you've got 300 machines that haven't restarted in a year. They are not patched. So again, you can monitor this. And again, that nicety that is there today in Intune to enforce the restarts and give the user a bit more control. So, because people, managers were always like, okay, no, don't interrupt the end user when they're working, but you need the machine patched. Yes, I know that, but don't interrupt the user. Now it's, okay, interrupt the user, but give them control. And we can see, trending things. I mean, this is a sample one that we have. We've tailored it to customer specs in some other tenants, of course, and we have the community version, which is a kind of a free one that we will also update. But it gives you a lot of detail, right? And this is only one tab, right? So if we state we're done editing there, and we start going through the quality update history. I mean, I just added in okay, longest computer uptime is 9 days in our environment, right? Probably a VM or something like that. Okay, yeah, that's just been left running. But the average computer uptime is 3 days, which is great. And again, being able to demonstrate that to a customer where you can say, well, your longest computer uptime, I think the longest one I saw was something like 768 days. It just been on for years.
It sounds
not
like
even
a
had a
server.
power cut. No, not even a server, just someone. And of course, the thing was, when I used to work in the admin side of things, or you have someone come in and say, "Oh, I turn my machine on in the morning, and it takes 60 minutes to get working. I'll go and have a cup of tea, and I come back, and the trouble is that people got conditioned into that in some of the very slow machines, very slow hard drives. Today, everything fairly much has an SSD. It starts in seconds. And there's no need for you to just leave the machine on for fear that one day you will come into work and it's going to take an hour for it to be functional. I mean, that just doesn't really happen anymore. But then, as more and more feedback started coming in, it was like, okay, well, tell us about updates over the last, 0 to 30, 31 to 60, and so on. We started adding more and more in here. And of course, here we're only going to display if we are running an OS which is picked up. I mean, we could display all of the KBEs over the past few months for every single build, but what's the point? We just care about those devices that we see. And we can see other visualizations going on there, just where it's, giving you the percentages and doing the different colors and that. And that's all kind of easily done, so it's just a conditional formatting that we have. So if we go to say edit this one, for instance, column settings, and then we've got a heat map. So we just say red to green, and then it works it out based on the figures. So it's really super simple to do this kind of stuff. Yes, you need to kind of delve around a little bit and go into the advanced settings and styles and stuff like that if you want multiple things to appear next to each other and that, because it's not really a kind of drag and drop. It's like, okay, we got to add, and we add a query or a text or something like that, and then we do something inside that. But if we want it to appear in a nice way, well, we need to know all of the stuff here. And of course, the nice thing is that when we're done with all the kind of editing and that, if we want to take this report and move it to another tenant, we can just click on edit, we can click on the code, and there we are. We have everything there. Okay, straight away we can literally copy that. Now, there are some elements in here that you obviously need to change, like the logo will be one of them, and maybe where you're getting the information from. But you can readily fix up that and then have a working report in another tenant very quickly. And yeah, it's kind of really grown. And we've added these different sections in, so you can go say details by device. Okay, and then you can go and you can pick your device, details by update as well. And that's one of those things that maybe CIO will care about a lot more. So if we come along and we say, tell me about KB 509.566 on Windows 11. Okay, you do that, and then it will refresh. Oh, I haven't selected, sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay, not started, update successful. And again, it's another trend time. So we can see that this is a new update, and more and more days that will look a little bit better graph, but you get the idea.
That's impressive. That's very cool.
And we get we get all of these status messages back from the device as well. So this one is in progress. The system must restart. Okay, so there it is. So if a CI is coming on and saying, well, how comes I have 95% of my machines patched? And it's saying, well, then you can dive into the details and you can see, for instance, in plain text there, all that's actually happening is machine is patched, it's just waiting for the restart, and the restart will happen. So there's a lot of nice features inside here. Then we added this one in for the update issues, and this is kind of a little bit of work in progress based on some of the changes that are happening in the logs at the moment. And also some of the things, one of the issues I put up on Twitter about where the Azure AD device ID is changing and things like that. Because that's something that in these reports, we need a consistent thing to report on. We can't use the computer name because in Intune, we can have more than one computer with the same computer name. So the Azure AD device ID is the one that we've tended to go for, and we've seen a bit of an issue with that. Now, I think the issue started occurring maybe back in around about August or September, and it has rectified itself in the bulk majority of devices, but we're still seeing it in some. So still trying to kind of tease that one out. But again, we can see kind of reboot pending, or if there was any feature update issues, we would see all that. Now, again, customer environments, we get a lot more information here. We're all Windows 11, all latest and greatest. So we're not going to see that kind of stuff. But one of the things we do see is the delivery optimization count. Now, you might look at that and go, okay, well, Maurice has done something horribly wrong because they're all reaching it to the CDN. 100% or 99% is going at CDN, but that makes sense because we're actually all working from home, not in an office somewhere.
Yeah.
But I was looking at customer environment only this morning, where we had made some tweaks to DO policies, and They're getting 67% of all their content delivered from other peers, which is really good considering that a lot of them would be laptops and people working from home now. So it really goes to show that those people that are in the office are getting their content from other peers in the office. And they've seen that with their traffic count, where initially they had a bit of a spike with machines going out to the internet. That doesn't happen anymore. And if we were that kind of a company, what we would see is we would have a lot more of these kind of green blocks appearing, and they would be higher, obviously, than the orange ones, which is a CDN. And we can see that here both in text format and graph format. So you can see it, over the last 24, 48 hours, whatever the case may be, whatever way you want that. So it gives you a nice way of tracking your actual delivery optimization to see, is it working? Because it's one of the things that we've seen sometimes where maybe someone has just started using Windows Update for Business and they haven't considered where the content comes from. And they might be in the kind of a hub and smoke model where all the machines, because traditionally we might have said, nope, you all come out as this IP address. So they all traverse the WAN and then they all go out through this one internet connection. And what happens when we move all of, say, we have an environment with 10,000 machines and they're all reaching out to distribution points and that. And then we tell them, no, now you're going to the internet. That internet pipe then all of a sudden will explode because everyone will start going out, maybe at the same time as well, and then bang, something's going to happen. And it's really hard to put the genie back in the bottle once the machines are talking to the internet and trying to get the content. So, being able to monitor your delivery optimization policies is fundamental. Feature update trending. Okay, so we can see here we have Windows. Oh yeah. What we're actually seeing here is I was looking at this going, okay, we were Windows 11 version 21H1 and now we're Windows 11 21H2 and now we're 21H2, but they're the same. The only thing that's happened is in the background in the past couple of months, they've changed the naming a couple of times.
Okay.
So we're just seeing a tail end of that where it was Windows 11 underscore version 21H2 and now it's just Windows 11 -21H2. Okay, so, but I mean, you could harmonize that as well. So you could have in your KQL query it kind of removing that so it's more consistent. But the trouble is, I think it changed 3 times or something like that, and we were just like, okay, let's just leave it for now and see what it settles on. We can see the policy assignments as well. So, if, for instance, someone goes and like, I've got them blurred out here. That's just an additional plugin. But if someone goes and creates a new policy, 90 days after the policy is removed, the machine will ultimately get rid of it. But we want to be able to track which update policy is in use. We also want to do stuff like this. Tell me about the machines that are in the latest build, the ones supported. And here we don't see it, but there's another section of the donut that will tell us about ones that are no longer supported build, because that's also vital. Okay, tell me about all the feature updates that are going on. Tell me about the types of machines. So is it a Dell? Is it a HP? Whatever, across here. And then, tell me by the SKU as well. Okay.
Wow.
The patching alert. Yeah, I mean, it's
really rich.
There's a lot of stuff in here. Like it's a constant evolving thing. Like myself and Sandy have done a lot of work recently in it, and it's like we might start off the day with a quick, "Hey, could I just chat to you on this?" And then all of a sudden it's like 6 hours later, where we've spent time going, but why doesn't this work, or what should we do it in a different way? And it is a constantly evolving thing. And one of the things that I would I'd love to get a bit more information on, I'm trying to actually do that at the moment, is really, really deep insight into the mechanics in the background of this stuff. Because the Microsoft documentation is fantastic. It tells us about all this stuff and the way it should work. But I really want to know about the inner nuts and bolts of it. I mean, I understand a certain level, obviously, but outside of that, what's going on, and maybe even in the same way that the Intune team do it, a fantastic job of, what's new, what's coming, what changed. Maybe those kind of those kind of posts for certain things like this as well, for update compliance, would be useful to tell us about, well, this is what they're adding in, this is what they're removing, and the patch alerting I won't bother going into, because that was really Print Nightmares kind of set up for.
Okay.
The Windows 11 readiness side of things. Okay, we have one machine that's not capable. It's a Lenovo MTR device I'm aware of. But again, this will tell you if it's, for instance, that the device doesn't have the TPM, or it doesn't have the CPU that supports it, and so on. It will tell you about that kind of stuff. And then there's something this is going to be a work in progress, but M365 apps and also third party. So I'm speaking, well, I'm reaching out to Patch My PC on a couple of things. There's other vendors out there, absolutely. They're the one that we tend to work with a lot of our customers, but through log analytics, the stuff that we're seeing here right now is all kind of built in, if you like. Okay, it's update compliant stuff. But through PowerShell, we can also create our own. Okay, so if I go in here and say under custom logs, I can go to and let's have a look at the device inventory. Okay, and here we get a load of information back from the device. Okay, more than what we get in Intune, for instance. And this is all dependent on what we want. This is just a PowerShell script, gathers the information, and it puts it into log analytics. But the point is that if we've got device inventory, well, then what's the one thing that we really don't have in Intune? It's app inventory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can come along and we can say, right, well, here's the app publisher Agile Bytes, and this is the one password, and here's the uninstall string and everything like that. And then we can start doing the things like reporting on applications. And that's something then that we're going to be doing. Again, this will be something that feeds into the community version, where we just simply need the feed to tell us what is the latest build. And okay, likes of Patch My PC and anyone that makes those kind of third-party plugins, they actually have that information. Of course they do, because their products work that way.
Yeah.
So it's just about obtaining that latest version and then comparing against the version that comes back on the app inventory. And then we can quickly build a report to say, do I have the latest version of application X? Yes or no? So that's the kind of next milestone, I suppose, that we're doing here. But this is just some ideas that we're going to maybe some customers had asked about. Tell me about the builds of Edge that are out there, or tell me about the builds of apps for business, apps for enterprise. And they should be fairly consistent, of course, because you tend to have the same update channels selected and that. But again, it's nice to be able to get in that information here in a way that you can control.
For sure. And in regards to the Microsoft 365 apps, there is also the Office Health portal, right? And that's actually quite informative. But having the whole information in here, because it's not necessarily that you have the Office Health portal to patch your Office devices or Office builds just because you are in Intune. You could do that by having the administrative templates and just having a policy there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're trying to give customers and like the community as well, that this is the one thing that you can drop into your environment and have a single place just to monitor all of your patching goes on. And like the Office patching is a weird one, of course, because even taking that model away, you moved away from an ADR. The one thing that you go into, we'll go into Endpoint Manager, we'll go to devices, and we have, update rings for Windows, feature update rings, quality. But hold on, where's my Office one?
Yeah.
What do I do there? And of course, yeah, you can go and you can configure something in here. So we can say, come along, Windows 10, and we'll use the settings catalog. And we'll say Office updates, right? Because that's how we're going to have to really do it here if we're pushing out a policy to control it.
Mhm.
And we come along, go down to Office, the machine, and then we have updates. Click on that, and then after a few seconds, here we go. So we get all of this stuff here. Okay, so
Yeah.
we can say the update channel, for instance, and then the update deadline. And it's always something that gets, a question mark. What the deadline? What do we do for the deadline? And I don't know how you feel about this, but I mean, for Office, you really have no idea if it's a security or a functional update. It's just an update.
Yeah.
So I usually say 7 days. I don't know what's your take on that?
5 days normally.
5. You're quicker than me.
Yeah, I need that
You're
patched.
younger though, right?
And I use the monthly enterprise channel
Yeah.
because the Office portal is that's the only channel it supports, and
Yeah.
I think the Office health portal is a very strong tool because it can monitor on your macros and plugins, and can actually roll back your Office package if it failed.
Yeah, if it causes a problem. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's the problem, right? Right there. How do you roll back a Office package to a older build? It's not like a KB where you can remove the KB and then you're good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you nail on the head. And of course, the other thing is, don't have one policy that does everyone, of course. You need to treat this in the same manner that you did the Windows updates, because if you have people getting your early adopters getting the updates, or IT, they should be able to see the functional changes. And I don't know about you, but recently, if you're using Outlook, the UI has changed quite a few times recently. And to an IT pro or someone like that, okay, you just get used to it. That's just it's evolution, right?
Mhm.
But to sometimes the standard user, they're like, hold on, I don't like this. Or where's this gone? I can't do my work anymore. And it's ensuring that IT are fully aware of the changes before they happen. And of course, that maybe you have like an early adopter ring where you have people getting the updates a few days before everyone else. And that's just to really cater for anything that goes wrong. Okay, if there's a third party plugin that gets broken by something. And of course, gauging that, okay, well, things look a little bit different. Should we send a circular to all staff letting them know that maybe the search bar is now at the top?
Mm.
Something like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, Office then is this is obviously the way that we cater for that here. But the other thing is the third party stuff. Now, for third party, it is third parties can be handled by third party. The company I mentioned earlier on, PowerShell PC, the one that what we recommend to our customers.
Mm.
But there are many others. And then of course, how is it really controlling them? Well, it's creating Win32 apps. Essentially, it's a way of it, controlling that. And then they have an applicability script that's able to run and see, A, do you have the application? B, does it need a newer version? And so on. And then of course you can report back on that. So I'm thinking of one updated on my machine yesterday. TeamViewer.
Mm.
Okay, and probably the Axia, which is assigned 64-bit. Okay, and we can come in and we can see how many devices have it installed. And it's fine going in and out to drill in to these reports to see. But again, trying to consolidate it to have it everything in here is where my goal is. And I know Microsoft are coming along with their own dashboards. And anyone that really wants to learn custom queries or anything like that, go and have a look at the public templates.
Mm.
Okay, there's stuff in there, and okay, it may not be applicable to what you're trying to achieve, but at least, I mean, if donut on list, right? Go in here. It gives you an example where okay, it's loading. Where at least you're able to go, okay, oh yeah, now I see how that works, or that, and then you can just take that information and knowledge and just apply it to your own. Um, So, I mean, I think there's going to be more and more community stuff in particular coming out from a workbook perspective. And I think myself and Jan have done sessions as well. So, like we have the bias compliance ones and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think this is a tool that if you haven't learned PowerShell, then you need to learn PowerShell. If you've learned PowerShell, then you need to learn custom query. Okay,
Mm.
because if you can do that, then you can actually join those two things together, like I said, and create a script that feeds log analytics, then that you can do stuff with. And I think the possibilities then are kind of all right, kind of endless, if you like.
This is this is so great, Maurice. Wow, what a rich asset you have here. And yeah, the only thing I'm missing here is like you like you mentioned, it's updating every 25 hours, the update compliance. So it could be nice if you could say, okay, I want to gather my data every 8 hours maybe, and maybe do
Yeah.
some
So just to clarify real quick on that, because that was one statement. That's the update compliance stuff.
yeah.
Anything else you want to do custom, where are we going to feed the data from? There's proactive remediations, and then we have control. If for instance, if I want hardware reports every hour, we can do that. I mean, you could actually even, if you really wanted to bombard with your log analytics, work tables and so on. I mean, you could set up scheduled tasks every 5 minutes or something.
Yeah.
But of course, just remember before you really get massively carried away and go into Sentinel and turn everything on and send all your information. There's a cost. So just be aware of that. Now, if you're just talking update compliance, that cost is minimal. It's tiny. It's peanuts. And even what we're seeing with like the device and app inventory, even if we're doing that multiple times a day, it's really really small. But if you start turning on large ingestion of DNS, AD, DHCP logs, all of that stuff, then your cost is just going to go boom,
Yeah.
right up there.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing to be wary of. Um, and I think an example might be that one customer where they're doing app inventory, hardware inventory, update compliance, and we're doing app locker stuff for them as well. Um, they they're probably around maybe 5,000-6,000 machines, and they're kind of about $110 a month or something around that.
That's peanuts.
It's peanuts really for the amount of information that they get back. And the one other thing you really need to be really good on is if you're going to send all this information back to your tenant, make sure you use it. Make sure that it does give you a cost benefit for doing it. Yes, it's lovely to have it from an auditing perspective, and some financial reassurance will go against that. But make sure that you really build out something that's useful to staff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's kind
So,
of
so the
my
message
advice.
here is don't mess with the data. If you don't need it, don't gather it.
Hmm.
And yeah, and if you need it, you can gather it, right?
If you need it, you can gather it, and all you need is a little bit of understanding of how you post to an API and some PowerShell basics to maybe build an array that generates a payload.
Mm.
Um, so and look, not everyone is a script kiddie or stuff like that, but definitely just have a look at the examples that are coming out in the community. I think Damien Van Robbie, I seen something recently he was doing about OneDrive space on devices as well.
Yeah,
A nice one.
yeah.
Um,
And
and you
hard
can
drive.
see, I mean, the hard drive one we actually have in our we have a device. Is it in the device compliance or device inventory? Um, yeah, it's in one of the. Oh, here we go.
Mm.
Storage states. So
Yeah,
you can get all of this stuff back. But you can actually see other people in the community now starting to move away from maybe Power BI. And the reason that they may be moving away from Power BI is if you want people to consume that stuff outside of the environment, and they need a license for the product, and it's it's not the easiest thing to learn either. Whereas Custo is a lot simpler.
Hmm.
So yeah, so as I said, I do expect people just to kind of start churning more and more stuff out. I know I have one blog post to do, which is just the dashboard for Cloud Lapse, which is the solution that Nikolai created for local administrator password solution.
Yeah.
I was actually waiting on some additional feedback from the client because at the moment it just kind of rotates a password, and you can check and see who the admin was that requested the password, right? And that's something you can report on. But I also wanted some information back from the client. Tell me the timestamp which it updated it, and tell me if I had a problem updating it, and other things like that. So I know Nikolai's been working on adding more functionality into his Cloud Lab solution,
Hmm.
and we'll follow up with that. And we are looking at maybe running some sessions at maybe some community events where we take everyone from being the concept of knowing nothing about Custo to learning something about Custo, and then from something about Custo to learning more advanced stuff about Custo. In a 1 or 2 hour session kind, because just to get people familiar with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So PowerShell and Custo, that's the new black.
The new black. Yeah. Yeah. Is it black or gold? I don't know. Yeah. It's definitely the new thing. I said I spend a lot of time kind of working away on this, and yeah, I mean it's a great reporting tool.
It's really impressive.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think so.
mean, there's there's hours and hours and hours and hours behind this. I mean, you didn't learn it overnight, right? You did it several days in week and week and week and week after to learn this, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it. I would say it, you certainly learn this a lot quicker than you would PowerShell, right? Custom queries. Um, but yeah, it is something I said that we, as I said, we can go down a rabbit hole for hours on something.
Hmm.
Um, and then okay, and what does that achieve? You go down a rabbit hole for an hour to get one line on a report, but it's that one line then that is really beneficial to you and to everyone else. And we talked about this. There is an update compliance workbook. I know you had the video before where you've already shared this.
Yeah.
And there will be updates coming to this workbook over time. So just keep an eye out on it. It is on GitHub. Um, and if anyone else has ideas or want to collaborate or anything like that, this is why we work as MVPs in the community. Sometimes it's better to get together and share an idea.
Exactly.
And look, we all have struggles, right? You've got 3 kids, I've got 3 kids. It might be like there's a person who's really, really eager and they have the best idea ever, and they want to do it in an hour's time, and you're going to have dinner and family time and everything like that. And sometimes there are missed opportunities based on that. Okay. And please ask everyone never to judge other people if they're not available straight away or something like that, because we are people. We have other things happening as well.
Exactly.
But we are fortunate enough from time to time, like you and I, that we've like a no work Friday. Or sorry, not no work. I've done it again. It's the second time. I said it's no meetings Friday. Okay, Stola Hansen will possibly kill me.
It's
But
because you like your job and it doesn't feel like a job. So that's a good thing.
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
but point being, we have a day a week where we should be doing cool stuff. And that's time. And I have had opportunities to sit down with individual community members, and even like what we're doing right now. I mean, this is fantastic. Just be able to talk to another
Maurice,
human being.
Maurice, this is going to help a lot of people. to get going on Custo and PowerShell and log analytics and actually Windows Update for Business and all that, maybe even transition to Intune. I mean, all these information to help people say, okay, there's no, if you're allowed to go cloud way, there you have it again.
Yeah.
If the cloud way, then why not go the Intune way? Why not migrate to Windows Update for Business? Why not have more automation in your everyday? And then you could upgrade your skills while others sit and do active approvals on their visas and config manager and all that, right?
Yeah.
Use that time to read books, to get certificates, or go to the amsendpointmanager.com blog. There's a lot of material in there you could read for weeks, and upgrade yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. You use your time more productively, and the one thing I always would say with IT people, never fear that automating something to give you back more time is a bad thing. Um, you might see it as I might automate myself out of a job. Okay, hopefully, I mean that was maybe something that was kind of battered around many years ago. I think today, if you do that and then you focus, like you say, on delivering the next thing, okay, what's the next quick win for the company, um, or for yourself as an individual? That is the really main thing to just make sure you go ahead and do it. And kind of as a closing example, right? I give you an example. So one of our customers, um, they kind of struggle for years that they've had ADRs and then they kind of struggle for years to get everything up to date by the end of the month and things like that. And then, of course, they would have a feature update or a Windows build to go up. So they would typically do a task sequence. Okay, so they do an in-place upgrade task sequence, and that always brought hardship and some concern that maybe if things don't go right for users and stuff like that. They've moved workloads out into Intune for patching because of that. And their experience since has been night and day. I mean, they were able to take several thousand machines over the course of December and move them from one build of Windows to another with virtually no user impact. I mean, that has to speak volumes.
It has, and that's what Windows Update for Business can.
Yes, absolutely. I feel that we should be getting a check in the post now from Microsoft for the good words we were saying. But I know that's not going to happen. But it is, yeah. I mean, the thing is that me and Human Space, we're both in the same hymn sheet here. We're saying, yeah, look, this actually really makes sense.
Mm.
And it's not to take away from the products that we all love. I mean, I love Config Manager. Don't get me wrong. But when machines are out there and everyone's working from home and there's an internet connection, can I just get them to go direct? Yeah,
Please.
indeed.
So Maurice, wow, what a session. I learned a lot. I have seen that community edition of the Update Compliance Workbook, and I have worked with it, and I've looked into it, edited, and looked into the KQL's stuff, and I'm learning. I'm learning every day, and I wish I had more time to just learn stuff and play around with stuff. That's not possible. We need to have butter on the bread, but
Yes.
once we have 2 hours here and 2 hours there, we go play along, and that's what sharpen us to do stuff like this and to share. So I can't stress it enough. Learn these stuff and maybe use a half an hour every day to learn yourself new stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, set yourself a target for something like that. And try to do it try to do it in the middle of the day.
Mm.
Just before lunch or something like that. So that, we all get in the morning and we've got something we have to work on straight away. And then you get towards the end of the day and all you're thinking about is the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, So try to do it when just before you're kind of getting lunch, or just maybe afterwards. And yeah, take the half an hour, learn something new, and it doesn't have to be an all day event. It's just little snippets, and it'll really help you.
Mm.
And even, you know, going right back to when I started learning PowerShell. I mean, there was another MVP at the time, and I was in a session, and I just said something profound that stuck with me, which was, yeah, if you don't learn PowerShell, learn to say, would you like to have fries with that? Um, and I went off and learned PowerShell, and to me at the time, just as an admin, the amount of automation it achieved was incredible, because then I had more time to do more stuff. And yeah, look, I could talk all day about the benefits of being able to do it, but um, looking at the community, there's a lot of cool people out there. There's a lot of cool people who are really doing better stuff than you or I. I mean, it's incredible, and the ability to be able to share that stuff. This is why I really love working with the product. I mean, I love my job.
Yeah, and that's a closing. So Maurice, on behalf of the community, on behalf of Mem Tips and Tricks, it was a blast to have you here, and thank you for the deep insight into log analytics and asset.
It's been an honor and a privilege.
Have
Thank you
a
very much.
great weekend.
You too.
Bye.